Okay. Call to order. Roll call, please.
Robert Beaver.
Here.
Betty Brusky-Mallett. Kristen Kraft. Here. Craig Gerlach. Justin Herder.
Here.
Richard Murden. Linnea Miller.
Here.
Gordon Shallow. Charles Spargo.
Here.
Open meeting certification. This January 18th, 2021 meeting of the Mid-State Technical College District Board of Directors and all other meetings of the board and or its committees is open to the public in compliance with the state statutes. Notice of this meeting has been sent to news media and designated persons in an attempt to make the citizens of the Mid-State Technical College District aware of the place, time, and agenda of the meeting. This is a time for an open forum. Do we have anybody that wants to be participate in the open forum? If not, other than we have that available, if somebody comes, we have some ground rules. I don't need to follow that tonight. I don't think there's no one here. Before we start action on things, we are going to move the
Yep, the discussion and action, Bob. We're just going to move that topic up since we have some guests that are joining.
I was looking for the handle on it, though. That was my...
On the fire training, district-wide.
Discussion and action. We're going to move up after the consent agenda items. So with that fumbling around, thank you. Adoption, action on the December 21st, 2020 board meeting minutes. We need a motion, folks.
This is Chuck. I'll make a motion to approve.
I'll second. This is Justin.
Any discussion? If not, all in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carried. Action on the consent agenda items, which would be payment of bills and payroll.
This is Chuck. I'd like to mention a couple of improvements that Greg has made on the consent agenda items, specifically Exhibit B and Exhibit D. Exhibit B on the payment of bills and payroll, he's included some notes. If you look on Exhibit B over to the right, on some of the larger expenses, that helps explain some of those for us so we don't have to ask questions. It's provided in Exhibit B. I want to thank Greg for that. And then also in Exhibit D, procurement for goods and services, he's added a section that I've been curious about. We have a lot of big projects, big expenditures showing up in our Exhibit B that haven't been on a monthly list in the procurement of goods and services in Exhibit D, and that's because it's approved at the beginning of the year in the capital budget section. And so he's included a section in the procurement area of Exhibit D to itemize those items so we're aware, yes, it was approved, but it was in the budget, so it doesn't need additional approval. Thank you, Greg, for doing that. So with that, he had answered any questions that I had as a follow-up to some of that, and I'd make a motion that we approve the consent agenda items.
Betty, I'll second.
Thank you. Roll call, please.
Robert Beaver.
Yes.
Betty Brusky-Mallett.
Yes.
Kristen Kraft.
Yes.
Justin Herder.
Yes.
Linnea Miller.
Yes.
Charles Spargo.
Yes.
Okay, then we have moved our discussion and action item. Fire training district-wide presentation we shared describing Mid-State Technical College fire training partnership opportunity with the city of Marshfield and the city of Stevens Point. So, Shelley?
Yep, I'll take that one happily. So tonight we're really excited to really share two public safety partnerships that I know the board is going to be very pleased about. And we're not asking for any formal approval. I just really felt as I enter into these multi-year agreements, I wanted you to know about it. There's no budget new dollars that are needed. And we do have some of our partners with us tonight from the city of Stevens Point and the city of Marshfield. So you'll get to hear from them as well. So we did put together a PowerPoint, and we also sent that in your packet just to kind of be able to provide a framework for the conversation tonight. So really, of the two partnerships, one is really a recommitment of sorts with the city of Marshfield, and the other is a new partnership being formed because of mutual needs with the city of Stevens Point to really serve all of our district agencies better. So if we go to the next slide. So let me provide just a little bit of background to explain how we got to this point tonight. So as you know, through my community and listening sessions, when I came in, I heard a lot of things. Some things that we were really great at, and some things that we definitely needed to improve upon. The recommitment partnership is one that we heard that we needed to improve upon. And as I talk through the details of this partnership, many of you that have been on the board for a while, you're going to probably remember hearing about this. In 2006, Midstate signed a 10-year agreement with the partnership with City of Marshfield for shared usage of a fire training center in the City of Marshfield located at 2615 South Vine Avenue. It was a designated piece of land used for fire and EMS training. And at this location, Midstate was going to be able to use the site for its training needs. And in turn, Midstate agreed to cost share additions and improvements to the training center. Unfortunately, we used the site for some training, but definitely did not to its full potential, and also really not living up to the cost sharing agreement that was in place. So coming in as the new president and meeting with people throughout the district, especially with Marshfield Fire, I heard about this agreement and our failure in being a good partner. Departments were not happy that we did not fulfill our end of the agreement, but also were not happy how we were currently offering our fire and our EMS and our law enforcement courses as a whole. We were delivering most everything here in Wisconsin Rapids and not as much as our other campuses. And the more I listened, it was very clear that there was opportunity to serve this industry, the public safety area, better in the future. So with that, we did what we do here at Midstate. We put a team together, Bobby, Deb, Rick, Colleen. We put together listening sessions with all of the fire, EMS, and law enforcement agencies. And we really followed up also with very specific meetings and surveys to really get exactly what they were telling us. We used the same model like we've done in the past, where after we got done hearing from them, we were able to draw some conclusions and really knew that there was some solutions that we could also do. We really concluded that for fire and EMS trainings, we need to offer what we call a decentralized model, meaning that we need to serve these local departments best at their closest campus whenever it's possible for us to do that. Now, we can't do every course at every campus, but there are many that we can, and we really need to do that for many reasons, because there's benefits to having a decentralized model for these agency partners. And Rick is with us tonight, who's the Associate Dean that works very closely with these agencies. And I just want him to share a little bit about the benefits of a decentralized model, which again means that we would offer this programming at all of our campuses to some extent. So Rick?
All right, thank you, Shelley. As we were looking at the results of the survey and paying attention to the things that we were hearing at the listening sessions, it really became clear that there were some very good reasons why it would be beneficial to have decentralized training sites. First, and I think probably the most important to our district departments, was the need for flexibility. These decentralized sites will allow for training to occur nearer to their home jurisdiction. And with that, the firefighters and EMS personnel will really be traveling, shorter distances, as we know that, traveling far distances is not very friendly to largely volunteer departments. And along with that will come the savings in travel costs and time commitments on the part of the students. These training centers should also allow the public to see their firefighters in action as they train at these facilities, allowing for community awareness as it pertains to the readiness of their departments and the activities of the college. Lastly, it should lead to increased recruitment of part-time instructors if we're able to keep them closer to their homes when we offer classes. As one instructor said to me one day when we were touring the Stevens Point site, he said, you know, it's going to be a lot easier for me to get buy-in from my family when I only have a 10-minute drive home after class as opposed to 40 minutes or more.
And so, you know, oh, I'm sorry, continue, Rick. Oh,
I think
I want to say just a few words here and then I'll kind of turn it over back to the examples, I think, if I can. It was also very clear that if the city of Marshfield would be open to it, we needed to have discussions with them to make our relationship stronger and really make a partnership creation again, really kind of reestablishing this agreement, because I will tell you as the president, it was really a missed opportunity that I saw, and we need to do better. It would be silly to have people who live in that side of the district travel to Wisconsin Rapids if we can do it locally and not require them to travel out of their district. Now, this doesn't mean we're going to, you know, put everything that we have in Wisconsin Rapids there, but we're going to mutually look at the needs and see what makes sense. So with that, we also learned with law enforcement, I'll give you an example. They're actually an industry that they need a more centralized model. But when it comes to fire and EMS, decentralized is really what they need. So I am pleased to tell you that we've been able to rebuild that relationship over the last 2 years and are ready to enter into another 10-year memorandum of understanding relative to protective service training. With this agreement, Deb will be allocating $25,000 of her academic capital a year towards this training center to build and maintain props or other things needed for our usage. This will not mean adding any new dollars, no budget impact. It's just a committed allocation for the usage, and again, will allow us to have the right to use the training site for our classes. The city will also give consideration to providing in-kind resources or cost shares to support additions and improvements, and is responsible for the operational costs, general maintenance and repairs of the improvements and grounds of the training center. I'm very excited about this. There will also be a sign that's going to be put up with both of our logos demonstrating the partnership that has been created. When I came here and was able to get a tour once I heard about this, the current sign that's out there actually has our old logo on. So it just kind of shows you how things just were not kind of kept up to par, maybe the way they should have. And just like the last agreement, there is a portion in the agreement that either partner can terminate the agreement with a written notice if the partnership is not working as we had in the past, and that's done on an annual basis. So the next two slides, Rick will show some examples of the classes that we're planning on holding at the training center, in addition to some long-term and short-term improvements for the site. This is really exciting for us. So Rick.
Okay. So in the near term, we really plan to continue to offer courses at the Marshfield site that we've been offering previously. So entry-level firefighter, firefighter 1, and hazardous material operations. Those were actually offered in Marshfield this past fall, and we utilized the training center. This spring, we will be offering firefighter 2 at that location. Another wonderful development has been the addition of a high school fire and EMS academy that has been developed in Marshfield. This past fall, we had a couple of high school students who took the firefighter principles and the hazardous materials operations courses. And what we did was we stacked those together with the community classes that I talked about just a little bit ago, that were much the same content. But what it allowed us to do was to bring in members from local departments and have them in the same class with our high school students, and allow us to have them train together and get the certifications that they needed. In the future, we plan to expand our Marshfield offerings into areas such as farm rescue, rapid intervention team training, and technical rescue courses. We've also been offering driver, operator, pumper, and aerial courses. We just did a couple of those in Marshfield over the last couple of years, and we really hope that in the future that training can actually be conducted largely at the site itself, rather than having to go into other places in the community. The next slide then shows an overhead of the existing site. So our short-term improvement goals are really to develop some of the needs that would enhance the training that we're already offering, or would allow us to better be able to expand our capabilities in terms of courses that we offer there. In the longer term, we'll want to aim for adding a classroom space on site to reduce lost time that we have traveling from the campus to the training center during a class period, adding an apparatus bay on site, upgrading the burn facility, and adding a training village. Those are just some of the other highlights of the long-term plan. This list every year will be revisited and reprioritized in collaboration with the Marshfield Fire Department.
This truly is a win-win for both sides, and we're so lucky because we do have the Marshfield Fire Department Assistant Chief Bakos with us tonight, and I think he'd like to say a few words. And I just want to, publicly say thank you for really allowing time for us to sit down and talk through your needs and our needs and how we can kind of get back on track. So with that, I guess I'll turn it over to you, Steve. I'm hoping you're on.
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
All right,
And we can even see you now too. Thank you.
So yeah, just a few things that I wanted to touch on. So again, my name is Deputy Chief Steve Bakos, Deputy Chief with Marshfield Fire Rescue. Been with Marshfield for coming up on 23 years, but I've also been an instructor with Midstate for coming up on 18 years. So I think I know the fire service and the training fairly well. Had my 1 foot in each area for quite a long time. When the agreement was first put into place back in 2006, I was a line firefighter, so I was one of the guys that got to go down there and play all the time. The improvements that were made back then were great. It was awesome having Mid-City as a partner, and it really benefited our guys. As an instructor, I know it was a big benefit for the classes we held here as well. Now with this new agreement and some of the ideas that are out there, again, it's even more exciting. Just tons of possibilities in what we can actually do down there. Also opening it up to law enforcement here in Marshfield. I know my brothers in blue down the street are excited as well, and we're bringing them in, not to mention the other departments that are in our area as well. And as far as the only other thing that I wanted to add, sorry, I got to check my notes here. Really just wanted to thank Dr. Mondyke and the team for all the work on this. We've been working on it off and on, as she said, for a couple of years. My Police and Fire Commission has already approved this agreement, and we'll be moving forward getting approvals from the City Budget Personnel and Finance and the City Common Council. So are there any questions for me? Thank you.
Thank you. So now I want to be able to discuss the new partnership that we're also entertaining with the City of Stevens Point, which really is modeled from the agreement with the City of Marshfield. Through our community listening meetings, we heard that Chief Finn from the Stevens Point Fire Department shared with us that he was working with the City of Stevens Point to develop a local training area as well, located just minutes from our downtown campus at 3100 Whiting Avenue. We were happy to hear this, and conversations started to occur with him if we could do something similar to what we're doing on the west side of our district, because we know, again, it will serve those agencies there. I'm happy to say that, yes, they have been very open to that, and we've really taken the same agreement and have been able to utilize it with the Stevens Point Fire. This would mean that Deb again would allocate $25,000 of her academic capital a year towards this training center, which is really a very small distribution to be able to affect so many people. Rick, could you please share the utilization and short and long-term plans for the Stevens Point Training Center?
I sure can. So similar to the site in Marshfield, we're going to focus initially on delivering as much of the hands-on portion of entry-level firefighter 1, firefighter 2, and hazmat operations as we possibly can. As the site becomes more developed, then the number of training evolutions will increase with that. Future training opportunities at the Stevens Point site are also very similar to what they were in Marshfield, with technical rescue, rapid intervention team training, and driver operator training being a few of the areas that we would be focusing on. This next slide shows an overhead drawing of the intended layout of the Stevens Point Training Center as it becomes developed. In the short term, there'll be a focus on developing the props and structures that are needed to facilitate the short-term course utilization that I previously shared. Similar to Marshfield, the longer-term goals will be the placement of a classroom building, an apparatus bay, and a burn structure. Areas for collapse and water rescue evolutions are also things that will be developed as we move forward. Again, this plan will be revisited and reprioritized yearly in collaboration with the Stevens Point Fire Department.
Wonderful. Thanks, Rick. And we are so lucky because tonight we have Fire Chief Finn, I think Assistant Fire Chief Moody, and Training Officer Howard with us tonight. And I think they would like to say a few words as well. And I just need to say, especially to Fire Chief Finn, thank you for sharing what you already had going and that you're open to allowing us to be able to train there and really be part of this. So I just need to say thank you. From the very first time you mentioned this to me and us, you know, taking it to our team here, it's just really made sense. So please, I'd like to open the floor for you to say your few words.
I just want to say thank you to everyone at Midstate. It's been a pleasure working with everyone to come up with a common goal. And our training officer, Trevor Howard, is going to speak now and go over the plan for this training site. But again, it's been a pleasure working with everyone at Midstate. There's been a lot of hard work behind the scenes and everyone should be commended for it. Thank you. Division Chief Howard, it's all yours.
Thanks, Chief. Thanks for having me tonight. So I just wanted to take a minute. I have been promoted to training officer here in Stevens Point. I've been in the position for about 5 months now. And the hard work for this project began long before I took this position. So I would really like to commend everybody that had the vision and the belief in the importance in this training facility and their persistence to see it through. I know it hasn't always been easy, but we have some high hopes for where this training site is going to go. This partnership is going to be instrumental in improving the training and the service we provide for our community. We've never really had a true training facility here in the Stevens Point area. We have traveled to the Wisconsin Rapids campus in the past, which logistically took a lot of time and effort and money to make happen. So this is quite an exciting time for us over here in Stevens Point. And not only that, but with the potential for Midstate to expand the reach and their ability to offer fire courses in our area. Again, you know, being an adjunct instructor myself, I think it's very exciting to be at the, you know, to be able to offer courses in our area. And like we have a fair amount of instructors that work for the Stevens Point Fire Department, not having to travel that extra distance away from families to put on these courses, I think is going to be fantastic for us. And, you know, this project has kind of been a dream of mine since I began working in Stevens Point, and to finally see it happen is, like I said, very exciting. The knowledge gained and efficiency acquired from performing practical evolutions in the fire service is immeasurable. And I guess to drive this point home, I have a couple notes here. I'd like to mention a couple quotes that I like to keep in mind. When I first was promoted to the position of training officer, I was looking for ways to keep folks motivated. And one of the quotes I came across says, "You can't train too much for a job that can kill you." And I couldn't find who originally said this, but I believe it holds true in our line of work. There's no better training for the fireground and fireground activities than live training evolutions, and this project is really going to give us the ability to perform those evolutions. And the second quote is actually from a retired battalion chief from Sacramento, California, named Anthony Castros. He said, "Training saves seconds, seconds save minutes, and minutes save lives." Both quotes speak to the importance of this facility, and whether you're enrolled in your first semester of fire school or a 15-year veteran, there's no substitute for good training in this job. And so again, we're beyond excited to announce this great partnership and finally be able to move full steam ahead with the construction of the training grounds. We've had numerous meetings and conversations here at SDFD and plenty more meetings with Midstate staff. And every time we talk about this project, I just get more excited because I know we here at SPFD have some big dreams for this project, and those dreams have been mirrored and encouraged by the staff at Midstate. And it's certainly refreshing and encouraging to work with folks who share a similar passion and excitement for a project of this magnitude. So there's no doubt in my mind this project will continue to grow and become a great benefit for everybody involved. Thank you.
Thank you. Wow. Well, you know, part of our role, of course, is to make sure that you have the workforce that you need. And I think this is going to be able to definitely help that, and it's exciting. It really is. So, Rick, I think you have a couple slides.
Yeah, so just to summarize a little bit, we're really excited to get these sites developed. They're really going to help us better serve at least 22 departments that we've identified as being further away from Wisconsin Rapids than they are from either Stevens Point or Marshfield. As Shelley has alluded to, this is a big win for Midstate to be able to partner with Stevens Point and Marshfield on these opportunities, as they were already in the process of development and they were going to happen with or without our participation. So we're thankful that they're allowing us to be a part of that. We are continuing to investigate the needs and a potential location for future development in the Adams County area to better serve those departments' needs as well. We will also continue to invest in maintaining and expanding the Wisconsin Rapids Training Center as that need arises. These partnerships will be a great opportunity for Midstate, for the communities of Marshfield and Stevens Point, and most importantly, for the students and the departments that will be served by training at these facilities. I very much want to thank everyone who's been involved in these projects over the last couple of years. Chief Finn, Chief Owen, and their staffs have been just beyond great to work with. We've had very good dialogue and collaboration, and I think really have set the foundation for a solid relationship moving forward. And to my colleagues at Midstate, thank you for your tireless and professional work in these projects. Dr. Mondyke and Midstate board members, thank you for your continued support of public safety training within the Midstate district.
Thanks, Rick. I mean, I think that the board knows how important partnerships are, and we always talk about we can't go alone. And so I think this truly is an example of great collaboration, and it was really exciting to bring it to all of you tonight, especially when you keep hearing we've been working on this for, it really has been 2 years. So I can assure you that the fire and EMS agencies, this will be well received. We definitely are going to do some press on this, especially with our signage being together. Again, hopefully that this really does please you and does align with your commitment that you've given to the district, that we want to make sure we continue to work hard to meet their needs in many ways. So board members, I would just ask for any comments, please.
Outstanding work. Thank you very much. Look forward to it.
I'd say thank you very much for your cooperation and work on this, guys. Thank you.
And all I'll say is it's about time.
Oh, really? Oh, that's good,
Okay.
Betty. Well, I think you went through fire training, so you know. But again, to our partners, we're just so excited. So let's keep moving, right? Let's keep moving. So.
Okay, sounds good.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
All right. Next is the chairperson's report. I assume that we have some people excused tonight. Well, okay. Today is Martin Luther King Day, Martin Luther King Jr. Day. And recognition of that Martin Luther King Jr. Day, I have a statement I'd like to read. Truly, today Americans across the country celebrate the federal holiday honoring the life, work, and achievements of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., a great and influential American civil rights leader. He felt that everyone should have equal rights, the right to work and make an honest living, the right to vote, the right to a good education, and the right to use all public places. In 1983, President Ronald Reagan signed a bill declaring that beginning in 1986, the third Monday of every January would be celebrated as a holiday known as Martin Luther King Day. Congress's intention was that the holidays serve as a time for Americans to reflect on the principles of racial equality and nonviolent social change espoused by Dr. King. During his lifetime, Dr. King sought to forge a common ground on which people from all walks of life could join together as equals to address important community issues. Service, he realized, was a great equalizer. As he once said, everyone can be great because everyone can serve. I don't know what this is my own statement now. I don't know what he would think if he were alive today to see what we've been through in the last 3 weeks. So it's kind of scary. There's an editorial on my part, by the way. Winterbow, anybody else would comment on Dr. King? If not, Winter Boards Association meeting was held virtually, as Layla said, on January 15th. I thought it was an excellent presentation, particularly the panel that she moderated. I thought there were some things that were interesting that we should note. Jason Stein said we had the lowest transfer rate that technical colleges do. And I'm thinking, that makes a little bit of sense because we have certificate programs and 1 year certificates and, 9 months, whatever. And they complete, and they go on and go to work. Well, then he said a little bit after he discussed that a little bit and recognized that factor, top to 10% of the students who transfer to UW graduate from UW.
10%.
The top 10% of kids that go to the UW from our programs graduate. So I think that's outstanding, in fact. I really was impressed. The gal from Milwaukee said that she was relatively new, but she had a pretty good grasp on how kids got there and why they got there and how they made it work for them. So I thought it was excellent. Anybody else?
I did
I
too.
thought it was excellent too. All three of them were actually originally from the Milwaukee Journal Sentinel. The fellow that went to the Policy Institute, which I think is in Madison, he came from the paper, but he's been with the Wisconsin Policy Institute, and they're working on policy issues. So it was a great team of those three. One of them, the fellow from Milwaukee Journal Sentinel, focused on the political side of things and policy, and a couple of things. Well, they said many things that were interesting, but it is sad that Wisconsin has had such a downward pressure on funding for higher education. And the pressure has been on us, maybe more so for the University of Wisconsin system. They've been hurting, I think, more than we have. Their thumb was, or their head was sticking up, their neck was sticking out further than ours, and we need to keep it that way. But they mentioned the pressure on keeping tuition down that has been forced on the University of Wisconsin system. They've had a tuition free since 2013, and that means the contribution of tuition to education has been gradually decreasing, and it is now in Wisconsin very low, nationwide below the average, and especially compared to our Midwest states that we're in the middle of. That's not good from a competition standpoint, because those other states are allowed to increase tuition a little bit more than the national average, and can funnel that into keeping teaching and education standards and curriculum up. But that pressure has translated on to the technical colleges, not just from the tuition standpoint, but from the taxing perspective. Tax dollars to education has gone down relative to our neighbors and in the country. And we've seen the impact on that, but he made a point that the focus on decreasing property tax dollars going to education is not a dead horse. The Republicans are still focusing on reducing or controlling tax dollars going to education. Well, tax dollars, property tax dollars for anything, but specifically for education. So we've got a battle to educate them about the benefits specifically of the technical college area and the good things that we're doing and how those tax dollars are a benefit for the state.
Not sure if you noticed, but I think we may have lost Bob from the meeting here.
I think we did. When he comes, to just give you the high level, unless there are more comments for Boards Association, there was only one other notation on Bob's report this evening, and that was the 2021 board appointment process. And so this is just informational for the group that the 2021 process is going to be kicked off with a letter sent to county board chairpersons within the Mid-State District in February. So the appointment committee will seek members for employer, employee, and school district administrator positions. I will act as the board appointment committee liaison and will communicate relevant dates and deadlines to district residents as well as those board members whose positions are up for appointment. I will make a note here that there is a change in the calculation for the WTCS population statistics for Mid-State, which just elevates our statistics a little higher. And so I ask you to just take a peek at your email and respond accordingly if that applies. And then again, I will reach out and assist with this. So then I am not seeing if Bob, I'm checking to see if Bob's getting back on here. In the meantime,
Hey, Bob.
we would be able to have
Are you trying to come back
Vice
on?
President to be able to, or Vice Chair to be able to assist.
Okay, I think you'll have to go out, Bob, and try to come back in. Okay, thank you. Bye-bye.
If not, I can run down the list, Angie. That helps.
Can we get back? Are you comfortable taking that on?
I can go ahead and continue because we're
Okay.
just going ahead with Shelley's report next.
That
Or
would-
are we waiting for Bob?
No, go ahead and get that. We'll see if we can get back in.
Okay. So we'll go ahead with Shelley's report.
Okay, thanks, Kristen. So just a few things since our last board meeting, December 21st. Hopefully you all had a good holiday season and Happy New Year. The time has really been spent getting ready for our winterim session that we're currently in and preparing for our spring semester, which begins next Monday. So during our February board meeting, we'll make sure Mandy gives you an update on winterim numbers and enrollment. But I will tell you just kind of a little bit of a teaser. Our enrollment right now, as of Monday, we're down only a little bit less than 2%, everybody. So when you really think about that, I got to tell you right now, looking at the other 16 technical colleges, we're in the top 4. So, I mean, that shows you how hard our staff is working. So I want to make sure that I commend them. And if we can try to finish below 5, I think we're doing really well. So some big things that are happening this semester, kind of 6 big things that I just wanted to mention. One is this is the semester for us to shine with our accrediting body. So we are trying to make sure we are doing all the detail and finalizing our documentation to prepare for that visit in May. In March, you're going to be having our Higher Learning Commission, Tom, that you've met in the past. He's going to be coming in and talking with you about accreditation. And so because of that, you're going to have Angie reach out to you, and I'm going to try to schedule 3 different meetings with 3 of you to just really professionally develop you for those conversations that we're going to be having. So you're going to see Angie's going to be reaching out to you and just want to have an hour of your time to go through a few things before we meet with Tom and so forth and before that visit. So we're going to do that the end of February. First part of March, and again, we'll do it virtually. Healthcare Simulation Center, it's opening, everybody. So that's a big thing this semester. And also we are almost done with our remodeling at our Salon and Cosmo area. Oh my gosh, it's amazing. So once we get you back on campus here, we're gonna give you a tour. Boy, you know, it's funny, you see these open rooms and then all of a sudden the equipment comes in and it comes to life. So it's really exciting. COVID, we're continuing to monitor situations. Right now, we're working with our local health departments on vaccinations. Right now, the educational institutions, we're kind of falling under what they call 1B as in boy. So right now, they're kind of still working the 1A tier. So we're just, aligned with them and waiting to hear when we might be able to have our staff vaccinated. And then the fire training partnership, that was really a big thing. And I think, when you really reflect on tonight, what just happened as far as this partnership, this is big. This is really a big thing for us. And then the Mid-State brand, if you walk into our bookstore right now, you are going to see some Cougar apparel along with some alumni apparel. So that's kind of the big things that are happening this semester. And then the other part of it is just some things that I thought you might want to know is I have continued that staff can wear denim through the spring semester. If they've got outside meetings or things like that, they can't wear jeans. But if not, we're going to go ahead and we're going to continue it through the spring semester. But I very much have said this is the last semester, everybody. But I want to be able to give that leniency to our staff because it makes them smile. Cafeteria services, even though we've lost our vendor for the spring semester, we do have 4 or 5 food restaurants that are going to be coming in. Somebody's going to take a Monday, somebody's going to take a Tuesday. We're also working with Mission Coffee, who's going to be coming in and offering some Danishes and coffees in the morning. So just know that we're working through all of that. And then we're kind of really excited about this. If you go onto our Mid-State website, at the very top on the corner, you're going to see that we now have a podcast series. And we have partnered with the Portage County Business Council, where we're highlighting Central Wisconsin business stories, really around Profile Central Wisconsin. And so we have one already out there. So if you're looking for a podcast, go out to our website, go to where it looks like all the Twitter, and you're going to see the podcast logo. Click on that, and you'll be able to see we're going to build a library there. So again, I'm all about partnership and visibility, and it's just, I'm really excited about this. Todd Kukan is the gentleman that we're working with at Portage County, and our own Ben out of the Stevens Point campus is the other kind of headliner doing some of the interviews. So they both have a voice for radio, I tell them as well. So as far as a District Boards Association, I was part of the meeting on Friday. Along with Friday afternoon, I did with Betty, I was part of the executive board of directors, gave a brief update from the President's Association. Definitely working right now on advocacy. I'm working a lot with the state office. You heard Kayla talk about 3631. Keep in mind, again, that's transfer, right? That's where we, all 16 colleges, we all want the ability that our students would be able to get their associate degree in liberal arts and sciences right here and be able to do a smooth transition to the university. We're hitting that hard because there's no dollars that we need in the budget. We just need a change in the wording so that we're hitting that very, very hard. And know that President's Association, so tomorrow morning, I not only have state board meeting in the morning that I do a recap for them, but then I also will be leading President's Association meeting from 1 to 4 tomorrow. From a president standpoint, I did share this with the executive team on Friday in case you have not heard. We do have a new president at Waukesha County Technical College, Dr. Richard Barnhouse. Got to talk to Rich last week just to welcome him on behalf of the presidents and of course Mid-State. Really had a great conversation with him. I'm excited for him. But we also have 3 retirements. You probably know of 3 other presidents. So you may have known about Dr. Richard Nelson out of Nicolay. He had announced it kind of mid-fall. So you may have known about that one. But then right before Christmas, we did get a retirement. Dr. Bruce Barker over at CVTC, Chippewa Valley Technical College, has announced his retirement. He will be ending June 30th. And then we also heard last week, Dr. Lori Weyers at North Central Technical College is also going to be leaving June 30th. So that really means there will be 4 new people. So I made the joke about, okay, I was the president of the President's Association 1 year. What did I do? What did I do to scare you all away? But so definitely moving up that ladder pretty quickly. But yeah, so it's just been kind of a joke. And Bruce just said, well, Shelley, I was waiting for you to come and it took so long to get you at the president's table. Now it's time for me to go. So we've had some some good conversation, but yeah, it's really been a delight serving. This has been a hard year serving, I will be honest with you, but it's been a good growing year for me as well. So that would end my report, Kristen.
Thanks,
Kristen?
Shelley.
Kristen?
Yes,
This is
Yes.
Betty. I just talked with Beaver. He said he's trying to get on, but he said just to continue without him at this point.
okay, thanks, Betty. Okay, we'll go on to the committee reports, the finance and infrastructure meeting with Chuck Spargo.
Thank you, Kristen. We've already handled the initial part of the things from the committee. So we'll move right into the treasurer's report. On page 16, we've got budget modifications for the month of December. There's just one. You folks know that we're getting grant funds from the Legacy Foundation to help with the simulation center. We received $375,176. So we're adjusting the budget for that. Revenue goes up, expense goes up, and there's no impact on the fund balance. That's page 16. Moving to page 17, where the current budget reflects the change to the revenue and expenditure side. So very little change in that, just an increase in revenue and expense in Fund 1. The next page is page 18, accrued revenues, expenditures, and changes in fund equity. Current actuals for the fiscal year 2021 as of December 31st. We're halfway through the year. We've received or recognized 58.6% of our revenue year to date. We've expended 44.2% of expended or incurred the expense for recognized the expense for 44.2% of our budgeted expenditures. So our revenue is a little bit ahead of expenditures still. Year to date, the accrued revenue exceeds the accrued expenditures by about $5 million. As I said, we're halfway through the fiscal year. Half of our months are behind us, and we've only spent 44% of our budget in total. And in terms of what we can most control, it's the current expenditures, and we're comparable there, just 43.4% of the budget in the current expenditures in Fund 1. So the financials are looking good. Total fund equity dropped 2.7 million, but we're still ahead of the game there. And the last page just shows our balance sheet. We're probably at a minimum for our cash balance of $16 million, which is only 56% of our monthly maximum, which again was back in February of 2017. But I believe next month we'll recognize the additional tax revenue, so that should bump up next month. That completes the treasurer's report. Are there any questions before we move on to the additional informational items? Okay, hearing none. We've got several of them. Greg is going to handle a couple of them. The first one is fiscal 2021 revenue and expense forecast. Greg, are you available to take this over?
Yes, I am. Thank you, Bob. Or thank you, Chuck. Excuse me. I'm going to try to share my screen with you real quick, and you did receive this in your packet. So if you prefer paper, feel free to look at the paper, but you should see a page called Mid-State Technical College 2021 Fiscal Year Financial Forecast. I'll give you a second to get to that page in your packet. And each month, our executive team meets concerning the COVID item, as well as it is our normal FY21 budget. We've established a discussion format that looks at both revenues and expenditures, and we adjust each for knowns and our best estimates. It's really important that the COVID team and the executive leadership team has this collaboration so that we understand what impacts COVID will have on our budget. On the next screen, or next page, you'll see our revenues. I have our original budget listed. We had tax levy revenue of about $7.3 million. And we know that, and I have a little green check mark next to it, because we did recognize about $77,000 more in tax levy than we budgeted back in a year ago now. Our state aid is pretty much even. Our student fees, which consists of tuitions, material fees, other student fees, we're looking at being down approximately $661,000. That's made up of two different things. One is that our budget tuition and student fees was a little bit higher than we anticipated for this year. And secondly is that we do have that small decrease in our FTEs right now. And then we have our other revenues. We're looking to be down approximately $50,000 in our other revenues, which is mainly made up of interest income due to interest rates. So as you can see on this screen, we are looking at being down about $632,000 in revenue from our original budget. When I go on to the expenditures pages, our wages, we're looking to be right on track on our wages as compared to our original budget. We're looking at our benefits, which is mainly healthcare costs, retirement, and FICA taxes, of being down about $142,000. This is due to the new rates that we received effective January 1st for healthcare, our health insurance. It was not as high as anticipated in our budget. Our current expense, we also look at being down $250,000, mainly due to the efforts of the executive leadership team and the COVID team in reducing our travel budget, and as well as some professional development items. So we're looking at having our expenses being down about $392,000. So when we summarize that, we have our original budget of $30 million for revenues. We take away the $632 for adjustments. We're looking at about $29,700,000 in revenues. Our expenditures, we're looking at, with the adjustments, being about $29,974. So we do look like we have some need for using some of our fund equity right now, because our expenditures are higher than our revenues by about $240,000 as of December 31st when we're looking at it. Any questions on the fiscal year forecast for our general fund?
And keep in mind, board members, that last year we had a little over $400,000 that we could have used out of fund balance. I think it was 460,000, give or take. Greg, I think that was the number, and we ended up only using 60,000. So I've kind of tried in all this uncertain times to make sure that we're at least within 400 if I needed to come back to you to ask for that other allotment, just because it's been a real hard year to predict. But I have to say I'm kind of pleased where we're at right now. So.
All right, with no questions, I will move on to another document that was in your packet called the FY22 Capital Budget Development Timeline. Timeline for action. I have it up on the screen right now. As you heard, Deb Ensel talking, Matt Schneider, Mandy Lang, with the projects they have coming along. We have started our capital budget back in November to start gathering information. This document you have will show you kind of the timeline that we have put together. So we met with the ELT here recently. As I scroll down the page, on January 12th was our first meeting to grab all that information from the deans, associate deans, staff, and we had a great session. I think it was last week actually, to go and review the capital requests. We will have another one next week to review all the capital requests. I will then be putting together a final computation of what funding we will need. We're looking at having a special Finance and Infrastructure Committee meeting in mid-March. I think if you could, please, if you have any interest in joining that discussion, if you could contact Angie with your interest, please, to make sure that we get you on there. And I will work with Chuck at setting a date, if it's before our board meeting or another date, to review the FY22 capital budget items and to be able to start us working on some of those FY22 projects that were discussed in the meeting earlier. Then in May, we will come to the board looking for the authorization of our resolution for bonds. And then we will look at awarding the bonds in June and receiving our funding for our capital budgets, or for our capital projects in July. Any questions on the capital timeline? Very similar to last year, I believe. If no questions, I will move on to the operational budget timeline. Similar document, but we wanted to make sure that we didn't confuse our staff with the documents. They could have one easy document or two easy documents to look at that were very similar to each other. We've started our operating budget already with our deans, associate deans, and other managers. We have a timeline of early February to have additional requests from our additional requests for our budget managers to provide business services with their requests. We will then meet with the executive leadership team in February to review all of our requests. That includes grants, payroll, enterprise funds, health insurance, and all of those type of funds. We'll summarize all of that information in March. We will prepare our documents to review with the board in late March, early April. Have a special infrastructure meeting in May, and then have our board presentation at the May board meeting and our public hearing in June.
Thank you, Greg. I think what's really important for the board is you can see that we're really trying to show how this is just a consistent process that we do each year, and know that we have put all of this with our crediting information to just really show how when we are planning our budgets, it coincides with our strategic plan. So it's really important for us to have this timeline so we know how everything inserts to everything. Just one note, typically that special finance meeting that we have for capital, we definitely need to have the finance committee be part of that special meeting. But then, yes, the offer is always extended to the rest of the board, that if you wanted to be part of that, you very much could be. Otherwise, you would see that full budget proposal coming to you for when the final board does approve it. So, thank you, Greg.
Thanks, Greg. We have one more informational item on the agenda for the Finance and Infrastructure Committee. Is Brad available to talk about managed detection and response solution?
I am, Chuck. Thank you. I'd like to provide an update on the managed detection and response, or MDR solution, that was purchased after our September incident. The solution is currently installed on 1,600 plus endpoints that is comprised of desktops, laptops, and servers. MDR is providing 24/7, 365 active monitoring of our endpoints for items such as malware, adware, and other nefarious items. Every few minutes, telemetry data is sent from each endpoint to the cloud. From there, the telemetry data is filtered down to eliminate false positives and provide alerts that need to be investigated. The MDR provider then analyzes these alerts and takes any necessary action. Many alerts already have predefined actions that kick off automatically based on the type of alert, and any alerts that don't have this are investigated by an actual person. This person analyzes the threat and takes any necessary action which may include also contacting members of Mid-State's IT staff. To put this in perspective on how this works, over the last 90 days, 23 billion plus telemetry records were sent to the MDR provider. Of these records, 24,413 were investigative leads that required further filtering and analysis to avoid false positives, which are events that appear to be dangerous but end up being benign. These events were further filtered down to 742 that correlated to suspicious activity and needed to be analyzed. Of the 742 events, 7 were confirmed to be threats that needed action taken. These 7 events were unwanted software detections or adware that were either approved software or removed by Mid-State's IT staff. No events were of a high severity level over the last 90 days. When a threat is found that requires Mid-State's IT staff to be notified, our MDR provider is able to call, text, and email IT staff. A recent example of this was a few nights ago when adware was found on an employee's computer. An alert was sent to designated IT staff, in this case at 11:39 p.m. The alert was viewed and any necessary action was taken. It is important to note that our MDR provider will take action on an event even if they are unable to contact Mid-State's IT staff. This helps ensure any threat is addressed as quickly as possible to avoid infecting other systems or growing in size. I am pleased to see how effective the MDR solution is working and how it is able to filter down many events into meaningful ones that may require attention. It is this extra set of eyes on our environment 24/7, 365 that helps further strengthen our security posture. And with that, I open it up to any questions that anyone might have.
Brad, I have a question for you. I have noticed on my Mid-State email, since we've had the security issue, I receive a lot more garbage than I have in the past. And most recently, I receive a lot of emails from Bob Beaver that are not from Bob Beaver. Am I putting my computer or my company at risk at all by opening up anything suspicious here by accident?
If you open up suspicious email, it really depends on the type of email as to whether or not you'd be putting the company at risk. And what I mean by that is simply opening up an email more times than not will not do any damage. It's actually if you're clicking on like attachments that have payloads that launch. So, opening up just to view it and then terminating this is suspicious and then deleting it is usually not harmful.
Okay. Okay, thank you.
I've been getting a lot of emails too, and many from the junk filter saying, hey, we've got these, our suspicious emails. You can take some action on them. If you think they're legitimate, you can accept them or delete them. And I just say delete them. And it goes through that and delete. I presume the rest of you are seeing something like that as well.
Yep,
that's our new, I have the same
part
thing.
of the new system, correct, Brad?
Yep, that's our new spam filtering mechanism. So what it's essentially doing is trying to be that front layer before it actually gets into your inbox. And if it's looks, malicious or nefarious in nature, it just puts it into quarantine. And we try to get a digest so that it limits the amount of emails that you have to go through. Then you can take applicable action on it. Can
you give us a summary of where we're at with regard to recovery from the incident several months ago? Yep.
Pretty much we are all systems back to normal with the exception of imaging our computer endpoints. I would say we're probably about 50 to 60% completed with imaging. That includes the labs and employee computers. We have Pam Malik, who's our computer services manager, has a project plan in place of reaching out to employees to reimage computers in the labs. We did a bunch of them over this winter break or the interim here that we just are currently in. So I think we're about 50 to 60% of our endpoints re-imaged. And as far as all the other systems, they're back up and running.
What do you mean by imaged?
When we get a new computer, or if a computer becomes infected, we do what's called imaging of the device. And what that means is we put on kind of that gold standard image, the operating system, with the applicable patches on it, and then any necessary software. So it's really taking a device and putting it back to a default clean state. And that's the process of imaging or re-imaging in this case.
Okay, but the people can still use their computer. They have their files. It's just a matter of cleaning things up and making them stronger.
Yeah, it's really the reason why we're re-imaging them is to, first of all, put everybody at the same level of operating system and software, but more importantly, just getting rid of those encrypted files that may be still lingering on the C drive. They are benign, they're contained and remedied, so there's no harmful things that are going to result of that. But we really just want to, from a perception standpoint, re-image the device and get them back to a clean state.
Got it. Thank you.
Yep.
Any other questions for Brad? All right, thank you. I think that concludes Finance and Infrastructure Committee report.
Thank you, Chuck. And then now we'll hear from the Academic and Student Services Committee with Betty Brusky-Malik.
Before we get into the academic, could I just go back to our Boards Association meeting since we got a little bit out of whack? Our last meeting, we had 40 district board members attending, 10 presidents, 16 staff from colleges, and 9 people from the system office. And it looks like we will continue with virtual meetings, whether we go live or not in the future, because it is feasible for some people just to attend the morning session and doing it virtually. The other point is with our savings, because we did not have quarterly meetings, we're trying to determine, and we probably will not assess any of the colleges an increase in dues this year, or for this coming year, because of all the surplus we have in our association. So that was part of the news we picked up on during our afternoon meeting. And now we can go back to our, let's see. We have so much paper here. So much paper. I'll find it. Or maybe not. We continue with our
I can go ahead, Betty. I think I
let's see,
have the first item.
Okay, good, Dr. Deb. Thank you.
Okay. In your packet, you should have a handout that shows the advisory committee membership for 2 of our academic schools, the School of Advanced Manufacturing and Engineering and the School of Transportation, Agriculture, Natural Resources, and Construction. On the handout, you again can see each member's name, the company that they work for, the location of the company, their end of term date, and the member status for each program for these 2 schools, so whether or not they're an employer or an employee representative. So for the 11 programs that we're reviewing tonight, we've renewed 17 members and added 22 new members over the past year. So I'm really pleased with the efforts of our academic leadership and the faculty to continue to add and grow our advisory committee membership. The academic deans and the faculty continue to recruit members from campus locations that are not adequately represented. Specifically at this time, we're focusing on recruiting members from the Adams, the greater Adams community, because that still continues to be a challenge with finding advisory committee members to serve from that area. Both employer and employee member categories are represented, and you'll also note, or I should let you know, that members are fairly homogeneous in race and gender, which really reflects our communities as well as the businesses that they work for. My plan, again, is to share information about the other academic schools in early fall, when you'll get to see a similar report. So do you have any questions at all?
Thanks, Dr. Deb. And
Okay, thank you.
our second informational item will be the cohort default rate with Dr. Mandy Lang.
Thanks, Betty. So every year we receive and then report out the latest cohort default rate information from the Federal Department of Education. And we pay attention to this rate because if it gets too high, which is over 30% for 3 years in a row, there are sanctions by the Department of Education. So we don't want it to get that high. And we've never been at that point. So a little bit about how this rate is calculated. The cohort is a specific group of students, student loan borrowers, who enter repayment within a federal fiscal year. So for our latest rate that I'm going to share with you, it's for those who entered repayment in 2017. And the rate is the percentage of those borrowers who defaulted at some point in that 3-year period after they went into repayment. And then they have to be 270 days behind in their payments in order to be considered in default. So our rate that we received just recently is 18.4%, which is up slightly, about 1.3% compared to the previous year. The WTCS average this year is 13.1%. So we are a little bit higher than where we would like to be, but it's not at that point where we're concerned at all. And we will continue to monitor this rate and really make sure that we are educating students on the financial literacy and the impact of their loans going forward. Any questions at all on the student cohort default rates? Okay, thank you.
Thank you. I believe that concludes our report.
Okay, thank you, Betty. And now we'll hear from Human Resources and External Relations with Justin.
Hello, we have 2 informational items tonight. The first being legal expenses update with Dr. Karen Brzezinski. Karen, are you with us? There she is.
I am. Good evening. Thank you. Thank you all. So I am here as a normal January item we have to share the prior fiscal year's legal expenses. So this would be 1920. And I will see if I can share this with you. Do you see that?
Not yet.
Not yet. There we go.
Now you can?
Yes.
Yes.
And I have it for you.
Oh, you.
Good trick.
Yeah, I'm like, wow, that was interesting. Yeah. Thank you, Angie. We always do a backup in case somebody's doesn't work. So I show you this graph each year. It starts in 2004, 2005 is that bar at the far left-hand side and goes across through 1920. So our 1920 legal expenses were pretty, what I'm going to call normal, at 52,551. You can see those last 3 years there, it's a little bit higher than it was the year before, but lower than it was the year before that. We have a couple of years that spiked. Part of what this chart shows you really is that it's very hard to predict legal expenses. We know some things that are happening. For instance, one year, the year that we at the SIM grant, we needed to do the MOU with Aspirus. Those kind of things take legal review. This year, we've been doing work regarding the point facility and process. So there's some things we know, but a lot of things we don't know. But we're pretty. This last year was pretty normal, student employee policy type. issues that we look for legal advice on. So there's no legal requirement or WTCS requirement that you see this information annually. It is really done due to an administrative policy we have of engagement of outside legal services. And that policy says that the college will share our legal expenses annually or as you wish them. I don't know when or why that started. It's not a usual thing that boards get. It's not that you can't. I just don't know the intent of putting that into the administrative policy if there was some reason. So I guess I would ask this year, is this of value? Is this something that, as we're in the time right now reviewing our administrative policies, that is important for you to keep in there this annual review, or because that's the only thing that precipitates this coming to you every year is our own policy.
Certainly not a big issue from my perspective. It's a microscopic amount of money compared to our total budget. So I see no reason to focus on a small element like this when there are so many other items that would be comparable that we could also be looking at that there's no point to. I would leave it to you folks if there was a very unusual year to let us know. But I don't see a point in having that in the policy.
I would second that. And typically we would know if there's anything that came up during the year that you needed to keep us in the know of. So I would be fine with that too.
Yeah, anything that would incur large legal costs would be something that would have been in front of you one way or another. That's for sure.
I guess I'm wondering, Betty, do you know any history behind that as to why this would have been? I agree with Chuck and Justin. I don't know why we're seeing it, but I'm wondering if Betty, if you know any history behind it.
She's shaking her head, but she's muted, so.
Okay.
Okay.
Sorry. No, I don't remember any history why that comes, unless Beaver remembers. But as far as I'm concerned, if you let us know there's something extraordinarily different, I'm fine with not hearing about it.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay, thank you much. Thank you, Angie, for putting it up.
Okay. Next, we have district dislocated workers with Dr. Bobby Damrow.
Thank you. Good evening. I wanted to provide an informational update regarding the college's dislocated worker student status, especially considering the Verso mill is still idle. As you may know, the North Central Development Board, North Central Workforce Development Board is the state appointed lead on any of the area dislocations. The college, in addition to many of the other agencies, is called to assist as part of kind of a community rapid response team whenever we're needed. Internally then, the college has a workforce dislocation rapid response team, which really ensures that we at the college are meeting the needs of the North Central Wisconsin Workforce Development Board, as well as the communities and the dislocated workers. So this internal group, it's very interdisciplinary, and we'll bring in members from academics and student services and workforce and grants and the foundation and marketing facilities as needed. So what does it mean when the college is really called to serve? You know, sometimes it means simply providing space for meetings or hosting career fairs. Most recently, we've been providing some adult basic education services and resume writing and basic skills, adding sections to some of our courses if we kind of have an overload of people wanting to retrain, scholarship opportunities. You may have, if you've seen on our website, we actually had hosted a couple landing pages for the folks at Donaldson's and at Verso, just so there were ways to really gather some unique information for these dislocated workers. So currently we're serving students from 3 business locations that I'd like to share with you. And the funding is either through the Workforce Investment Opportunity Act, which is called WIOA, or the Trade Adjustment Act, which is the TAA funding. And I just wanted to share briefly a little bit about some of the trending because I think you'll find it interesting. So again, the 3 companies right now that we're working with are Verso, Donaldson's, and Ho Chunk. And what we've learned from the North Central Workforce Development Board is that they're serving 65 people currently in retraining. Nearly all of those students are from Verso. And they've also shared that many of the Verso employees haven't really committed to their future plans yet. And they also shared with us that there were significant retirements and pending retirements happening with some of those workers. We know from experience that when the workers become dislocated, it could take up to a year before they decide on a retraining path. But I wanted to share that of the 65 people that they're working with for retraining and reskilling, 52% or 34 of them are enrolled here at Midstate. So when we look at our FTE numbers, just know that we do have 34 students or 34 full-time equivalent students that are in our programs. When you think about the 65, 34 are here. Where are the rest of them? Well, 10 of them are enrolled in different truck driving schools. 9 of them are kind of waiting in the wings. They're undecided what programs they're going to enter and where. 6 are enrolled at other technical colleges throughout the state. 5 are enrolled at 4 different UW systems, and 1 is at Lakeland University. If you're wondering what careers are trending with that group, I can share. I've already shared one, which is truck driving, and tied for that, there's 10 people that have selected an IT career in reskilling, and that's really exciting. Those 10 students are all at Midstate, so that's even more exciting. The third most popular career right now for these early folks that are reskilling is HVAC. And so we have 6 new students in HVAC, and those are, again, those HVAC, they're all here. The people that chose that career, they're all at Midstate. We also have 3 new students in accounting, 3 in business management, 3 in medical coding. We have 2 in welding. We also have 1 in machine tool, civil engineering, electrical apprenticeship, nursing, project management, and 1 that's still deciding. So I just wanted to share with you, that we are taking care of these people, where they're kind of trending, and I'm hoping that I can come back to you in 6 months or so, or maybe even at the fall semester, and share some higher numbers or where the rest of those individuals have landed. Like I said, we know from experience that when people become dislocated, it takes a little bit of time for them to really decide that they're going to maybe give up the career that they had and try something new. But I want you to really feel confident that we are providing the supports that these individuals need when they're considering reskilling and when they kind of come to us. We're putting our best foot forward, and I'm really, really excited about the team that we've established here and providing all different types of supports so they can be successful and stay in our community. So that kind of wraps up what I wanted to share with you, and definitely open to any questions that you might have.
Okay, thank you. That'll conclude our report.
Okay, thank you, Justin. Earlier this evening, we met as a committee of the whole meeting, and we had Layla Merrifield update us on association activities and legislative advocacy. She mentioned on April 16th that they're going to have a virtual meeting for the ACCT quarterly, focusing on DEI training. She talked about the National Legislation Summit, February 8th through the 10th. We'll be virtually meeting with Senator Tammy Baldwin and presenting a presentation to Senator Ron Johnson. Anything else anybody wants to add on that? We'll be basically talking about how important the WCTC, or how important the technical colleges are to the state of Wisconsin and how funding is. Okay.
Good job. Good job.
Also, Dr. Deb Stencil talked about the Wisconsin Rapids campus facility renovation. I'm going to ask Dr. Deb to go ahead and just talk a little bit about that.
Sure. So I explained the fact that we have a culinary arts program approved. Our plan is to start that in fall of 21. I shared with you a high-level overview of the space that we're planning to renovate to provide us with a classroom, a storage, a laundry area, along with a changing room, the culinary kitchen, and then a culinary cafe area. This project will have 2 phases. That would be phase 1. Phase 2 then would be the addition of some outdoor dining spaces and student life activities, as well as a renovation of our existing cafeteria and remodel in addition for some student life space.
Thank you, Dr. Deb. Okay. Is there
back?
Yeah,
what?
it was a struggle, to say the very least. You do a good job. Keep going.
Bob, I'm sorry to have chased you off with my financial committee report.
There you go, Bob. You can finish us off, Bob.
Where are we?
Last motion.
Adjournment.
Adjournment.
You made it back for adjournment, Bob.
Oh, okay. I meant to entertain an emotion.
So move.
Yeah, not me.
I'll second.
I'll second it.
We stand adjourned. Sorry about